So welcome back to Fjook Enterprise. I'm here once again with the Cursed Paladin Otacans to discuss the video game.
Hi
Hi
all,
all,
it's
it's
your
your
Coast
Coast
Paladin
Paladin
here,
here,
Atticus. I
Atticus. I
hope
hope
you're
you're
all
all
having a
having a
good
good
one.
one.
I'll get that pronounced right one of these days.
It's
It's
all
all
good,
good,
man.
man.
Welcome, heroes and villains, to Fjook Enterprises YouTube channel. Take a moment, relax, stop your bickering, and just enjoy the show. From what you've told me, you've really enjoyed the video game Grounded. What is the setting and idea of that game?
Well, it was produced by. Um, great. For a moment there, I had a mental block. I could not think of it, but Obsidian Entertainment. And it was done by a small team of theirs. And from what I could tell from when I first saw it, was based off Honey, I Shrunk the Kid movie series from back in the 80s, 90s period. In fact, they had the time setting for the game's actual bit for the late 80s, early 90s. When you first start it up, you'll see the intro start off like that, which is interesting, but you're one of four teens that have been shrunken down to being like maybe a centimeter tall, sort of thing. And you're dropped in the backyard of this scientist that created the shrinking ray, and you gotta try and find your way around the backyard and figure out what the heck has happened to you. That's the beginning setting of the game.
So, what are the mechanics of this game?
Well, it's a survival-based game, similar to others out there like Ark, Rust, and the like, where you go out and gather the resources, you build up yourself a base, try and survive against the various insects and arachnids that live around the whole area, since there are some pretty nasty bugs to deal with. Most are harmless, but you do tend to wind up finding a couple that make you go, holy crap, and you run like crazy. There was one time at night, I fell off of this rock. I turned around and I see 8 glowing red eyes of a wolf spider looking at me, and I just legged it. I was like, nope. You're not having me for dinner, buddy. Just legged it before it got me.
This sounds very different than the other games we've talked about so far. So, what makes this game fun for you?
Uh, it definitely has its challenge factor to it because you're dumped with nothing on you at the beginning, and you gotta literally pick up little chunks of rock, blades of grass, and forge Stone Age weaponry at the beginning before you advance along by killing various bugs to craft other items like killing off spiders to get poisonous fangs off them to turn into blades, for an example. There's that whole challenge factor because even though there are the area, well, the whole map area is segmented into various tiers. The first and second tier bugs are basically in the same zone, and there's a huge difference in power between them. It's not exactly the easiest game to go 1v1 at the beginning against a wolf spider, for a good example, since it has this huge amount of health and it can do a lot of damage to you quickly if you're not careful. But yeah, it's been a fun one. Uh, the fact that it has some really beautiful uh, design elements to it, since they went ahead and got the god rays and the moonlight and all that really well done. It's very easy to lose your way in the form of which direction you're going in the game, since you might think you're heading north, but you're actually having turned a little bit to the side and headed like eat more easty, well, eastward sort of thing than anything else, and wind up going in the wrong direction to your location. I've done that a couple of times where I've tried to go for the Oak Lab, and wound up going towards the hedge by mistake, which is not exactly a good idea at the beginning. There's a lot of orb weaver spiders in that location, including the brood mother. She's big and she's nasty. Once you have the gear to take her on, she isn't too hard.
I assume since you compared this to Honey I Shrunk the Kids, you've seen more than the first movie. I've seen you see
Yes.
multiple of the movies and maybe the TV show. I think it had a TV show. Is it as good as those?
Well, very much so. The game is based mostly off the first movie itself, where he actually shrunk them down, since it's a bunch of teenagers trying to find their way back to the house. In this case, you're one of the teenagers just running around the backyard trying to find a way to get yourself back to normal size. You're finding various pieces of the inventor's technology scattered around the backyard. And yeah, you find out various notes and recordings that he's left behind that Dr. Wendell wanted to try and improve storage for humanity, and that by like shrinking food down so a lot of it can be stored away um, for any sort of purposes like going in and out of space and all that, so you can take a lot more with you for longer trips and like all sorts of stuff like that, which is cool. It's not quite like the second movie where the parents shrunk themselves down, but it is similar in some ways. But it has nothing to do with the third, where the third one he basically blew his baby up into Godzilla size. You might remember. Yeah, you just roam around the backyard. And you first find a mysterious machine. You go to activate it, find out that two of its lasers aren't working properly. One blocked by a blade of grass, which you have to chop down. The other you have to go and sort of repair by removing this mite infestation around it. When you do, you hit the button. It's the machine you've just fiddling with it, and you think like, oh yeah, it might make me big again. You sort of deal. Like, oh, this is super easy to get done. Instead, the machine blows up. Well, has the short circuit, and you see the short circuit has this electrical pulse that goes across the backyard to the oak tree that it then explodes open. The main lab there, the control lab. You go there, you find that Dr. Wendell's got four other labs in the area, one of which is underwater with a koi fish. Let's just put it to you like this: you're a tasty morsel for the koi fish, since it's about the size of a jumbo jet compared to you, sort of thing. It is huge.
Does it explain how the doctor in full human normal size put a lab under the water?
Oh yeah, he used his shrink ray technology to actually shrink down buildings and then place them into the pond and all that. Fully working laboratories and that. Uh, And there was the company he worked for that he was developing this technology through cut a couple of corners on the labs, and that's why they've got a couple of faults here and there.
That's my penultimate question. Any advice for people who are looking to get into the game?
Well, that is quite easy. Be a little cautious at night, since the wolf spiders will pop up out of the blue, and you do not want to mess with them at the beginning. Not at all. Try to build up as many of your resources as possible. You definitely want as much plant matter as you can get, because the rope just goes so quick. But try to get your hands early on some ant armor and go into the red ant nest because you could find the rotten bee armor in there and some various goodies. And it's always good to go in there every few days to see what the ants have brought back to the nest. Since with the red ant armor on, the red ants will not attack you, which is a major boost. Two, do as many of the quests as possible for Burgle, because when you do those quests, you get the raw science, fairly easy to purchase the mutations and recipes off him. And getting Meat Shield and Big Lungs, I think. But one increases your health and one increases your maximum stamina. So comes in real handy for traversing around. When you're able to kill a mosquito, do so, because having access to that blade comes in very handy for dealing with most creatures.
Anyone or anything you would like to shout out at this time?
Well, of course, I like to shout you out, man, since your stuff's been pretty entertaining and I've enjoyed it quite a fair bit. That Street Fighter video you did a couple of weeks back was quite entertaining. The how the guy was explaining how he was an old school Street Fighter character, player sort of deal, and a lot of the mechanics from back then are different from what today is. And if you go ahead and put one of the people that are more used to the new games now onto that older platform, they would just fail it because of how the mechanics are so different. Of course, I'd like to go ahead and give a shout out to the various friends of mine on Discord and that. And yeah, I just wish everyone has had a Merry Christmas and hope everyone has a Happy New Year.
Thank you for making it this far in the video. Don't forget to do all the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, stay sane out there.